At 0310 on 21 September 2025, a Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2 reconnaissance drone picked up a deep, unmistakable signal inside enemy territory, a clear double thermal signature. The AI suite flagged it automatically. Two Russian Mi-8 AMT helicopters, each worth roughly $16 million, had just landed at an airfield in Crimea. In the subterranean UAV operations room in Zaporizhzhia, the sensor team fell into a tense silence. This was a rare opening. A precise strike could not only neutralize those two helicopters, but also cripple the local supply chain. Both Mi-8s had completed an almost 2-hour flight, carrying more than 60 troops and their gear, and upon landing, they were moved straight to the technical area for servicing and refueling. On the ramp, there was a relaxed atmosphere. Officers removing flight suits, laughter, plastic cups of vodka, and toasts for an uneventful mission. They had no idea that the routine flight had left the runway marked with exact information about the base. Like sugar bait for an ant, Ukraine only needed one clue to lure the ant and then burn the whole nest down. At 0320, minutes after touchdown, screens in the Zaporizhzhia command center began to flicker. Commercial infrared imagery showed thermal signatures on the ramp, engines still warm. A Bayraktar TB2 on patrol was immediately redirected. It dropped to roughly 500 meters, skimmed the terrain, and slipped into the blind sector that Nebo-U and Podlet K1 did not cover. Its composite airframe registered on enemy radar like a small bird, nearly invisible on their systems. Its electro-optical and infrared sensors tracked residual engine heat and streamed video to the UAV command in Zaporizhzhia, confirming the worst. This was no temporary parking area. There were at least two Mi-8s ready for redeployment, two B-12 maritime reconnaissance aircraft, and an uncamoed Nebo antenna array capable of detecting stealthy aircraft and tracking hundreds of targets. Human intelligence reported hundreds of tons of fuel and munitions stored in hangars and yards, enough to sustain continuous air operations and keep supply routes open. Neutralizing that base would sever a critical node, create a gap in early warning, fracture the logistics chain, reduce air defense effectiveness, and open corridors for follow-up Ukrainian strikes. Special Unit Ghost moved immediately, escalating surveillance into a 3-layer attack plan. A formation of UAVs, secretly deployed for nearly 2 hours, received orders to divert into the final corridor. By 0325, the formation was under 40 kilometers from the target. Leading the group were two UJ-22 decoy drones, flying at about 300 meters and roughly 160 kilometers per hour. They were unarmed. Their mission was to emit strong signals and saturate the 2.4 and 5.8 gigahertz bands with their larger carbon fiber airframes. They were not built to be stealthy. They were meant to be the first targets. Exactly 200 meters behind them, 3 Luton 196 attack drones formed the spearhead. They flew lower, at roughly 150 meters, cruising between 180 and 200 kilometers per hour. Each carried an approximately 75-kilogram shaped charge warhead. The formation assumed a wedge pattern. The Lutons emitted no signals and navigated using an internal suite independent of GPS. Their final destination? The Crimean airbase. Coordinates had been confirmed less than 5 minutes earlier, and from launch, the formation produced no open-band control traffic. Every maneuver followed the rehearsal script to the second. At 0327, two UJ-22 decoys crossed the first layer of air defense detection. A Podlet K1 station located more than 12.5 miles from the base picked up unusual contacts in the mid-altitude band. Alarms sounded and radar operators increased sweep frequency. The Nebo-U went active, deploying high-frequency comms over progressively wider arcs. The UJ-22 signals sharpened on the screens. On the Podlet K1 control display, two unidentified targets repeatedly registered between 900 and 1,000 feet, about 11.5 miles out, and closing fast. No response code matched them. The early assessment was that they were kamikaze reconnaissance or loitering attack drones. Immediately, the local air defense commander ordered Condition 1. Nebo-U swung abruptly into high-speed scan. On the eastern perimeter of the airfield, a Panzer C-1 battery engaged, firing 257 E-6 rounds simultaneously. The interception was complete in 14 seconds. 2 flashes lit the sky, followed by fireballs. The debris fell to open ground less than 500 meters from the base fence. In the command cabin, a duty officer reported both targets neutralized. Air defenses dropped to a temporary alert level. Podlet resumed routine patrol. Nebo-U kept sweeping, but reduced frequency on the southeast axis. No one suspected the true phase of the operation was only just beginning. At 0:30:42, as Nebo-U rotated its beam northwest, the 3 Luton 196s pushed deeper toward the base. The lead craft made a slight 10-degree turn off the original heading. The wing elements held formation and dipped below 330 feet, skimming the low tree line on the base's south edge. The trio exploited the gap that had opened between radar scans, while air defense units recalibrated after the initial barrage. The maneuver had been pre-computed to thread overlapping nulls from 2 scan arcs, an extremely narrow window formed by fragmented side lobes, just wide enough to get through and out before Russian radars could reacquire them. This radar evasion craftsmanship has enabled Ukrainian UAVs to reach as far as Moscow, Kazan, and Astrakhan on the Caspian shore. As the Panzer crews readjusted their aiming after the first shots, the tip of the dagger had already pierced the outer defense layer. Distance to the base fell below 10 miles. At the current cruising speed, the formation would reach the target in under 5 minutes. From that moment, every flight order exploited the rotation timing of the radar beam and the Panzer C-1's reaction delay following engagement with the decoys. 2 minutes later, the 3 UAVs entered the attack corridor together. At 03:35:45 a.m., the range coordinator confirmed the Luton drones had entered the attack corridor. Target locked. The cluster of Mi-8 helicopters in the Crimean base, sector B-12. On the Nebo-U control screens, infrared signatures painted a sharp picture. 2 Mi-8s parked in the open, 2 B-12s near a hangar, and the radar array standing exposed. The base still didn't realize the real threat was already hugging the ground and aiming at 3 lethal nodes. At 03:33:45 a.m., the Nebo-U picked up a faint ultra-low altitude return. A weak thermal trace flickered at the edge of the display. The sector coordinator flagged a contact accelerating at treetop level. Alert level 2 went active, but too late. In the Ukrainian UAV command center, engineers armed the final dive sequence. Automated systems locked terminal paths to designated impact points. The 3 Luties surged forward into their final run, accelerating to 145 to 155 miles per hour. Just 1.5 meters long with a 2-meter wingspan and carbon composite frames, they were built for surprise strikes where a single hit could unleash cascading destruction. 30 seconds later, Leonti-1 climbed to 600 feet and lined up on the Mi-8 cluster at the western pad. Leonti-2 broke off 15 degrees left, targeting the Nebo-U antenna. Leonti-3 maintained a straight path toward the 2 B-12s parked beside fuel and maintenance trucks on the eastern apron. Behind those targets loomed a massive logistics depot with over 500,000 kilograms of aviation fuel and distributed ammunition stockpiles. At 03:35:23 a.m., Leonti-1 dove at a 26-degree angle, smashing into the engine bay of a Mi-8 under service. The hit flared into a white flash, followed by a fireball rising over 100 meters, lighting the entire base. The shaped charge blast, compounded by secondary detonations, ignited nearby fuel drums. The shock wave exceeded 50 psi. The second Mi-8, parked only 5 meters away, was obliterated in the chain reaction. Rotor blades and fuselage fragments were hurled over 70 meters. A fuel truck was thrown clear off the pad. Less than a second later, Leonti-3 slammed into the right-hand B-12. The drone shattered on impact, fragments puncturing an auxiliary fuel tank. Flames engulfed the second B-12 almost instantly, spreading fire into the maintenance hangar. At 03:35:27 a.m., Leonti-2 struck the Nebo-U antenna with surgical precision. The explosion was sharp and violent, collapsing the radar into a burning heap of twisted metal. Russia's eye was gone. The blast reverberated for more than 20 kilometers, shattering windows within 600 meters and making locals believe an earthquake had struck. The entire apron turned into an inferno. The once hidden base was now a blazing beacon, its thermal glow captured by commercial satellites at over 400 meters wide. At 03:36 a.m., the Russian UHF network sent its final transmission. Base under attack, radar damaged, aircraft down, immediate assistance required. Then, silence. In under 7 minutes, the strategic airbase in Crimea lost all defense and command capability. From the radar to the Mi-8 cluster, the entire western ramp was wiped out. Towers of black smoke climbed skyward as secondary explosions ripped through fuel depots and ammunition bunkers. By 04:15 a.m., infrared satellites recorded a massive thermal hotspot in western Crimea, more than 350 meters across. Telegram channels from Zhongkoi circulated nighttime videos of roaring fires, glowing debris falling on rooftops, and military police sealing off the area. Maxar satellite imagery from September 21st confirmed the destruction scale. 3 Mi-8s were reduced to charred shells. 1 B-12 was shredded beyond recognition. The Nebo-U radar collapsed, its antenna destroyed. More than 300 meters of apron were scorched black, strewn with wreckage, fire scars, and smoke visible even from orbit. Damage was estimated at over $180 million. The base lost 100% of its helicopter transport capacity, its primary early warning radar, expeditionary fuel depots, and ammunition reserves. Logistics operations froze completely. For Ukraine, the strike was decisive. This was no ordinary airstrip. It was one of the few expeditionary hubs left in central Crimea. From here, Russia had launched attack helicopters, operated B-12s on maritime patrols, and maintained resupply flights to forward nodes in Jersón and Zhongkoi. With this hub neutralized, Moscow is forced to redesign its southern logistics network. Cargo flights must now detour farther, lengthening transit times and increasing exposure to detection. The loss of the Nebo radar also stripped Zhongkoi's defenses of overlapping coverage, opening a 90-kilometer blind sector to the west, an exploitable gap for future Ukrainian strikes. The raid compelled Russian defenses to scatter, reposition, and expose new vulnerabilities. Every adjustment created fresh openings for Ukraine's military intelligence, GUR, and UAV forces. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry kept silent for hours. Telegram channels mentioned only a technical fire in Crimea, cause under investigation. OSINT analysts quickly confirmed coordinates via thermal imagery and satellite mosaics, exposing the base's exact location. Operation Ghost was not merely a drone strike. It was a punitive and preemptive blow that dismantled a critical defensive node in Crimea. The Nebo radar's destruction blinded early warning coverage along the peninsula's northwest axis. The Mi-8 fleet, vital for rapid transport and redeployment, was wiped out. B-12 maritime patrol capacity was crippled. Fires in the fuel and munitions depots shut down aerial operations in Zhongkoi for 48 hours. After the strike, Russia sealed the base perimeter, rushed in additional Podlet K-1 air defense systems, and suspended all low-altitude flights in the sector. With just 3 low-flying UAVs, Ukraine reduced a supposedly invulnerable installation to rubble. The message was unmistakable. Modern tactics and precise synchronization can outweigh expensive hardware.